So inspection in Wales started in the 19th century. There was a few inspections in 1839. It began to get on into its own towards the end of the 19th century. We heard the date 1992 about England. It also established a new inspection system, and it's called ESTIN, and ESTIN means reach out or stretch. So it's called ESTIN. Our inspection system is called ESTIN. It's funded by Welsh Government, but it is independent of the Welsh Parliament, and is known now as the Senedd, our Parliament, Senedd. Okay. ESTIN organises and administers the school system, and it advises the Welsh Government on quality and standards in education and training. Schools in Wales are inspected every 6 years, and the cycle includes a preparatory phase, site inspection, and a final report. I like this bit that ESTIN also published thematic reports. Now, I mentioned earlier on today that they did this in the 70s in England. Sheila Brown was brilliant at doing it and inspiring her chief inspectors and her inspectorate to encourage wider thinking and shared effective practice. We also get, and you mentioned it, we had a report every 10 years, and they're very honest about things like pupil referral units, for instance. We are massively underachieving, and they're poor as a group. There are one or two exceptions, but we don't do well on that, and the inspector and the chief inspector logs it. He tells the world that we're not doing very well at that. Okay. So these are our key inspection areas. It's interesting that they used to use the word standards. That's gone. We now use the word learning. And then we've got well-being and attitudes to learning, teaching and learning, care, support and guidance, leading and improvement. And the aim of the government and ministers is that it should be fair and impartial, supportive, reflective and transparent. Now, some teachers would have a baleful eye about that, but that is the aim, and that's commendable. That's a very commendable aim. Now, what's happened is that the system used to be quantitative and qualitative. And we've heard today about the deleterious effect that putting a disproportionate amount of time on accountability and not over improving learning penalizes you. But we had that system, and these were the 7 areas: how well do learners achieve, how well are learners cared for, whatever. I've been chair of a school I've been chair for about 24 years. I decided 2 years ago that it was time for somebody else to pick up the baton. But in that period, I was responsible for supporting the head and the staff with several inspections. And the one I've just shown you, the one this one is now, we did one in 2009 there. And I said to the head, we've got to make this a celebratory event for free consultancy. What we want out of this inspection is free consultancy. She said, okay, we'll do it. And I said, I want to speak to all the staff. I said, we're going to have no pressure. It's free consulting. This is a very good school. We had 30% free school meals. Only 4% of the children had English at home as the home mother tongue. The bulk of them were Bengalis, the bulk of them were Muslim, and we originally had attendance of 86% until the head and other members of staff went to the homes of the Bengalis and said, look, they've got to come to school. You can't take them away for 8 weeks regularly every summer. And they persuaded the parents that they would only go to Bangladesh in the summer during the holidays. And we went up to 95% attendance from 86%. And that was the reach of the staff and the school. I thought this was a good system. And over time, I've learned, and today is my final road to Damascus today, I've abandoned the idea, which I mentioned this morning, John wasn't here, And I said I was wedded to an inspection system that said in the late 19th century that it's one group of professionals holding another group of professionals accountable and reporting to the inspection. I said, we'll use this, and I again spoke to the staff. And again, I thought I can work with it. This is good, this is all right. But the rest of the profession, bulk of schools did not like it. It was still, all the pressure was on accountability and not pressure on school improvement. So in the end, Welsh government said, we're going to change this. So they talked to the inspector and the chief inspector, and they agreed. And the primacy went on to qualitative insights and judgments. A summary of the report will highlight the main points of the inspection report. Summary emphasizes the main strengths and areas for improvement and recommendation, usually 2 or 3. Now, this happened after I left. There was an inspection a couple of years ago, and they say lovely things about teaching and about the children and so on. But the people liked it, they liked the relationship. And they come up normally with, even under the new system, they come up with 2 or 3 recommendations. And the recommendations in my school, Kitchener, was improve the provision of systematic development of pupils' numeracy and mathematical skills, which they'd mentioned in the report. And the second recommendation was to ensure that all teachers share consistently high expectations for pupils' written work. So those are the 2 recommendations, and there's no labeling of excellent, and there's no 7 1s. That's all gone. You can still be placed into special measures, and it can be A, you can be put in special measures. B, is significant improvement, and the inspectorate provides additional support in getting them out of that categorization. Okay, and then recently there's been a further change that with the school action plan, following those 2 recommendations I mentioned to you now, within a year, the inspectorate would contact the head and say, how's it going? We'd like to come and see what you've done with your action plan. And they come and they're supposed to be supportive and they flag it. But what they're saying is, we are going to come. We do expect you to implement that action plan. And then more recently, in the last 12 months, they've now introduced what's called an interim visit. So that if you're inspected, 6-year inspection period, you've got those 2 recommendations. So you've done all of that within 2 years, 2.5 years. They would then, in the 3rd or 4th year, ring you and say, would you like an interim visit on a topic of your choosing? And the profession have welcomed that in Wales. And so it's been a journey. I mean, what's interesting about today is if our teachers in Cardiff or in Wales were listening to the report that we've heard today, they would say amen.